1 week until Christmas, and so in this month's film we're taking you from field to plate to show you how to prepare your own joint of venison ready for the festive season. With family and relatives coming to me this Christmas, I'm well motivated to provide a joint of venison for Christmas dinner, and so I set off an hour down the motorway to one of county deer stalking grounds in Hampshire. With only 1 week until Christmas, the pressure is on, and so I make my way to one of our favoured high seats in search of roe. And it's not long until I spy what I'm looking for. Of course, at this time of year, it's important to distinguish the female from the male. Unable to get onto a roe doe, I take my position in the seat as late afternoon descends into twilight. About an hour passes with no roe in sight, and so it is with some relief when a muntjac buck appears off to my left. Quickly getting into position, I whistle the animal to a stop and take the shot. Despite their diminutive size, muntjac can be hardy beasts, and you can just see the muntjac in the bottom of the screen as he makes his last dash before collapsing out of camera shot in the field. He's actually a lovely beast with excellent tusks and nice size antlers, which might potentially make a nice trophy. However, it's the venison that I'm interested in today, and relieved at having got a beast before the light fades, he's grallocked and placed in the car to be taken home for processing. It's been a glorious winter's evening, and Hampshire has once again come up trumps. Once home, the animal first needs to be skinned before the butchery can begin. Okay, so here we have our muntjac. And the great thing about muntjac and some of the smaller species of deer is the fact that they're very easy to deal with in your own kitchen. We take a lot of people stalking, and a lot of the guys will take away these sort of sized deer because they know they can just do that. They can take it home and deal with it. Now, what I've done already is I've taken off the shoulder forwards, and the reason I've done that is with a muntjac, when it's shot with a 308 or similar calibre, cause an awful lot of contamination to the front quarters there. So I've just got rid of all of that. If you can salvage some meat from the shoulders, you should do, and it's great for sausages and burgers and that type of thing. But what I want to do here today, and the purpose of today, is to show you how I personally deal with a carcass of this sort of size. And to get the best cuts from it, I take the loins here and of course the haunches. Now, if you've got some terrific butchery knives at home, fabulous, good for you. But I want to show you how to do it with just simple tools. And so today, for the purposes of that, I'm just going to be using the knife that I've been using in the field here today. It's from Bushnell. It's just a very, very simple tool. And that's all we need. You don't need anything more complicated than that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to deal with the loin first of all here. And the way I do that is I take as long a strap as I can. It's a terrific cut of meat. And we do that to start off with by finding the hip joint here. And you can feel it here, and it comes back across and towards the spine. So all I'm going to do with my knife is I'm going to cut in and towards the spine there and free that up. Now the next thing I do, and this will give you the length of meat, is I come all the way to the top as far as I can here, and I'm going to make another cut here. And all the way up into the spine. So that's going to be the length of our loin here. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place my first cut across all the way and keep it nice and close to the spine, and effectively with a view to trying to peel that loin away from the rib cage and of course from the spinal column here. Okay, so we're nice and tight there against the spine, and all I'm going to do is follow the spine all the way up here, keeping it nice and close. You don't want to waste any of the meat here because it's a terrific cut. And follow that all the way up, keeping it nice and tight to the spine, up effectively to where my cut was here. Okay, so when we've made our cut, we come to this final point here on the shoulder, and then all I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn that around, and that makes it easier to cut for me. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is pull this away from the spine and simply work down. And if you stay nice and close to the ribs, then you'll gradually be able to roll that piece of meat off and away from the ribs. Okay, so we can see already that that's coming away nicely. And if you just work against the rib there, that joint gradually starts peeling nicely away. Take that all away as one piece of meat, and there we have it. That is effectively our first loin. Okay, so there's our loin. Now, what we want to do here is we want to get rid of all of this silvering. Can't cook it with that silvering on it, it'll spoil the cut completely. It will tense up when it's cooked and it will squeeze the meat and you'll lose all the goodness from it and it'll be terribly, terribly tough. So you want to get all of that off effectively so it looks like a nice red piece of meat like this. And the way we do that is simple. Take our knife again and you've got to come underneath the silvering, making a very fine cut just underneath. Now if you keep that tight against the silvering and you cut away from you, always cut away with you when you're using a knife, and you keep that nice and tight, that will effectively all start coming free. You can see already that the silvering is coming off with a minimum of waste, and we've got that lovely, that gorgeous red meat there, which is what we're trying to get to. So any silvering, just take that away. Okay, so what we have here now is just one long, nice loin, lovely dark red colour. If I'm going to cook that, I'll cut that in half, makes two really nice steaks, cover it in olive oil, bit of seasoning, and it's done, ready to go straight in the pan. So we'll put that to one side, that's our first loin. Okay, so now onto the haunch. Now you can do this with a saw and split the hip straight down here, but I'm going to do it with a knife. And the way we're going to do that is just start putting a little bit of pressure on here and simply make your first cut straight down the middle here. Now if you start putting a bit of pressure on here, you'll find the ball joint, and that's what we're looking for, because we're going to work our knife here into the ball joint and start separating that joint away. So now if you follow that cut, the original cut here, and you follow the bone down and cut away here, you'll find straight away that you start coming to the ball joint here. Now if you work away at that, the whole joint starts coming loose. This can come away here. From inside the hip joint, you can just feel the edge of the hip here, and if you cut nice and tight to the bone, you can see that piece of meat is coming away nicely. Okay, and likewise, as we followed the bone down here, if we follow the bone up from the back end here, and we just follow that nice and tight to the bone, whittle away at that, and that whole piece of meat starts coming away and is separated from the main body of the deer. And with a couple more cuts, that whole piece comes away. Alright, so there's our haunch. We've just taken all that away. That is a terrific cut, but we're not finished with that yet. We've also got to take off the shank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the rest of the carcass away, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so now we've got our haunch. Now what we've got to do is we've got to take off this shank here, and we do that from the knuckle here. And the way I always do that is turn it up here, and you can see the knee here effectively. What we're going to do, if you start cutting away in that, you'll find that joint. And the reason we take that shank off is because it's much tougher than the rest of the cut. And what I really want is that whole piece there to go as one joint in the oven for a fantastic roast. One smooth cut will take all of that away. That's your shank It's a much tougher piece, as I say. And now you are left with one fabulous haunch. Okay, so there we have it. Terrific haunch there with a little bit of trimming. That's a terrific bit of meat, almost ready to go straight in the oven. And we've done both of those jobs there with just one little knife. Absolutely terrific cut. And what we want to take away from any species of deer. Yes, the other bits of meat are good and they can all be used for sausages and burgers. Never waste anything if you can help it. But with any small species of deer, they're the two main cuts that you want to take away.